Hi. So, this movie, it's your first, yeah, there we go.
I don't know you that well.
One of the things that impressed me so much about this, it's such a fully realized first feature, like, it feels so confident. And I'm curious, how long was the gestation period before you actually were able to shoot? How long have you been thinking about this movie and conceptualizing it and writing it before you got the green light?
It was about 3.5 years of full-time work. Most of it paid with development, but never greenlit, and just always putting that money into prototyping creatures or going to Romania to scout locations or keep drawing concept art to prove out the world. But then, a couple years before that, where it's like notes and thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember at this point, like in terms of the notes and thoughts, like what the first thing was you wrote down, what the initial impetus was for this movie?
I know what I told you in the last Q&A, but there's no real answer because it just is like, it's a growth. It's like coming out of your body and you're like, I don't know where it came from, but I do think that I knew there was like, I had a drawing and it was like almost like a Totoro animal, big old OCHI animal that was covered in fur, and it was like picking blueberries, and there was like a sleeping boy on his back. And I was like, oh, well, I should just keep working on whatever that is. And then the animal turned into a primate, and then the boy turned into a girl, and then the primate needed to be small enough to be in a backpack so that she could run away from home, and you just keeps walking around.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you talk about doing these drawings, and I know, as you told me before, you've got background in drawing, and is that how you communicate to your collaborators what this world is supposed to be like? Because that's another thing, it's like it's such a specific world, and I'm curious how you convey to like your department heads and everybody like that what it's supposed to look like so you're all making the same movie.
Can you say that again?
Like, how do you convey to your department heads and people you're working with, like what the world,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, drawing, so like, yeah, it was, we just came from the Grove, so like, we're trying to have a new, different version of the conversation. Yeah. I'll stand on it, so it's all about drawing for me and sculpting, but in order to convey all this stuff, it's like, those 3.5 years I was always just doing this like laborious Photoshop concept art to just make frames that looked like the movie, they just weren't moving yet, and that were kind of undeniable, and they looked like they were on film and everything about them. And and much of that is just to get people to give me financing for the movie. I'm not really thinking like, this is exactly the production design. But then when it's time to actually do it, that's how you kind of make a little budget turn into something big. Is like me and my friends who can also draw, we just get together and draw tons of stuff and work with my production designer, Jason Casparde, and this big Romanian art department who knows how to build tons of shit. And we're just, drawing as fast as we can and then make more stuff. And then the same thing is on the backside of the project. So like, it's almost like there's a mirror image to all the work in the beginning is the same type of work I do on the 3 years of post-production, where it's doing matte paintings and concept art that now for 3D environments, or my 2D team to place the matte paintings in. So
And just to clarify for everyone, you're doing all those matte paintings and everything in post yourself, basically, right?
I did all the 2D, I would say like 95% of the 2D matte paintings, but there's a lot of things that might register as matte paintings for people that are 3D. So like, I worked with this great Norwegian CG artist to make like that opening island shot. That's like a completely 3D image. And like, we're going back and forth for like 6 months to make that feel detailed and have little tiny cars drive around and everything. And then there's this wonderful company, King's Ransom, here in LA. I think some guys are here from there. Woo! And they did the entire third act. And that, is We couldn't find real locations that were safe to access in Romania for like the river and the caves and then this OCHI habitat. So those might also look like map paintings, but they're fully 3D environments that we're just like being very detailed by, and then everything gets printed to film stock in the end, so it all kind of gets baked as a casserole, and it's part of unifying the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talk a little bit about that decision to shoot digitally, but then print on film stock. And then theoretically here, I guess we're going back to digital projection again.
We always wanted this look, this feeling. I mean, all the reference cinematography was like Black Stallion and Paris, Texas, and There Will Be Blood, and movies that are very clearly shot on celluloid. We almost could have afforded shooting on film. It was about $500,000 more to shoot on film. And we shot on large format Alexa instead. And part of the idea was we knew that there's going to be 700 visual effects shots that are going to get these map paintings layered in and environments layered in. And if we shoot clean, a big large format clean image, but on old glass, then when we composite stuff in, we can actually like match the lensing, but everything will be clean, and then when we print, everything will get the same amount of softness and halation and grain and everything, and then it looks like you shot it on film. Whereas if I started on film, I'd be having to digitally fake all the effects to match the film, and I could never do that. So.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned shooting in Romania with a Romanian crew. I'm curious what that experience was like. I mean, because how many people are you bringing over from here, and how much are you acclimating to working there? And is there any difference between the working methods of a Romanian crew and the crew here?
Oh yeah. I love the Romanian people. I mean, they're like, first of all, it all just started with like scouting there. Years before I was Greenland, we traveled around with my producers in these villages where, we're just trespassing on people's land in these little tiny mountain villages, and they like whistle at you, bringing you into their houses and feed you like the wild forage bounty of their wilderness, and make you their adopted son, and you're like, wow, I can't even speak the language, thank you. So I really fell in love with the people, and then this production company there, I should say, it's kind of like their Warner Brothers, like a big studio backlot company, Castel Films, handled our Romanian production. And so, yeah, they're just like, journeyman crew like anywhere else, but every country has a different flavor of how they like to work and, what the vibes are. But I found them really, really hardworking and sweet, but, also they're like loose and different. It's not like a British crew or something, very different. Yeah.
And the performances in the movie are pretty strong across the board. And I'm curious, again, this is your first feature. What kind of environment did you try to create on set to help facilitate the actors' best work?
A lot of it was honestly a failure at doing that, because it was like the conditions are so hard. We're out there like on the side of a mountain, like sub-freezing temperature, with people in ape suits and child performers and animals and a small ragtag kind of group, and that's not a good condition for any actor. So Will was like, this is bad news bears, but I'll do it anyways. So I can't say that I succeeded at creating those conditions, although Will did say like that's also the appeal, like that was the reality of it. Like his whole philosophy of acting is that it's just about doing things. Like he's like, the best performance I'll ever give is you just tell me to like walk from here to there and get in the car and drive, because I'm just gonna be doing it. And so the more that we're out there in the real woods really doing it with the real creatures and everything, that is, I guess, the right conditions for him to be doing what he wants to be doing. And with Helena, it was really about, total trust and intimacy with me and her, and then the puppet and the puppet team. And, a lot of those, the movie lives or dies on these scenes that are just the two of them. And having that puppet be something that she was truly like bonding with, and like, you know, especially when it's like on her shoulder, in between takes, she's like kissing it and everything, and the puppeteers are staying in character and like, you know, letting her live a little fantasy life, you know.
How much